And fraternize with the enemy, and you may just find yourself dining with worms. U.S. President Obama is continuing a Bush policy that allows troops to capture, even kill Americans abroad who they see as a national threat. Joining me now to discuss this is RT contributor and investigative journalist Wayne Madsen. Mr. Madsen, is the President of the United States basically just able to assassinate now without much of a judicial check?
Well, this is an amazing thing coming from a president who used to teach constitutional law at the University of Chicago Law School. These are extrajudicial killings, and the United States used to condemn them vociferously in international forums, whether they were done by Saddam Hussein, Idi Amin, Bokassa, Pol Pot. And now it seems the United States has adopted the policy of extrajudicial killings, assassinations, as state policy. And again, yes, it's a continuation of what we saw with the Bush administration. And we have Admiral Dennis Blair, the Director of National Intelligence, talking about this as a policy. And one would have to wonder, what book is he reading right now? The U.S. Constitution, according to Dick Cheney. It's an amazing thing. And I think the Congress is being woefully inadequate in not taking a closer look at just what are these policies and who signs off on it. Is it President Obama, or is it some low-level person in the Department of Defense or the Justice Department?
Okay, but in theory, why is it a bad policy? Say there's an American who is plotting an attack against the U.S., doing it in Yemen with al-Qaeda. Why should they be treated any differently than another suspect in that situation? Well,
what we've seen with the U.S. intelligence community, we've even seen Dennis Blair go before Congress and say they committed a grievous error when they did not get the information on Abdul Muttalib, the so-called underwear bomber, because somebody spelled the name wrong. What if somebody spells the name wrong here? They get the wrong person, they misspell the name, and the wrong American is killed. Also, any time you assassinate people in any type of environment, you run the risk of collateral damage, other people, innocent people being killed. And this has happened with these Predator drone attacks in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And the mere fact that this is being talked about as a U.S. policy, I think, is amazing, considering that in the past the U.S. condemned other governments that engage in this type of activity.
Well, couldn't you say these are different times? We now have this counter-terror strategy going on in the Middle Eastern countries we're at war with, and maybe this is just part of it. I mean, think about Guantanamo Bay. The president wanted to close it. He issued that executive order, but we've seen how difficult that's been. Maybe this is just these kind of extrajudicial measures are necessary in this war.
Well, unfortunately, when you look at Admiral Blair's background, even prior to 9/11, he was cooperating with regimes, for example, the regime in Indonesia. When he was the commander of the U.S. Pacific Command, he was ordered not to have anything to do with General Wiranto, who was committing extrajudicial killings in East Timor. He ignored the order from Washington. He engaged in that activity with the Indonesian regime, and many innocent people were killed. So for people like Admiral Blair, this is nothing new. This is a continuation of policies he's maintained throughout his entire military and intelligence career.
So you're saying that regardless of the theory behind it, this is not executed in a way that passes muster with you?
It's absolutely it's a violation of the U.S. Constitution, where we have a due process. Where's the jury? Where's the judge? President Obama is saying he's going to become judge, jury, and executioner. That's not in the U.S. Constitution. It's also a big violation of international law, as we know, with established international law going back to the Nuremberg Tribunal.
Well, you could argue that's the case with these detainees in Guantanamo Bay, but obviously there's been issues with closing that. Is this just the difference between reality and the desire that the president has to avoid these kind of measures or to get out of them?
Well, I just wonder what kind of advice President Obama is getting. You know, if he were to be talking to career Justice Department attorneys, they would say, look, you are in the area of an impeachable offense to order the assassination of any American citizen, even non-U.S. citizens, it could be argued, would be a violation of U.S. and international law. But we have him listening, obviously, to the intelligence and the community, the military, and obviously not enough to the people in the Justice Department.
All right. Well, Wayne, we always appreciate you weighing in. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll continue to follow this now that we all know that the president is able to order the assassination of suspected U.S. citizens who are suspected of being involved with terrorists overseas.